як роса на сонці, запануєм і ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми, браття, козацького роду.
Welcome to the Beau Show. The opening song that I performed is the Ukrainian National Anthem. And I want to tell you why I performed it. Right now, I'm sure you've seen many leaders and people wear a badge or lapel pin with the Ukrainian flag. They see it as a sign of support for Ukraine. And I'm sure that most people likely have good intentions in wearing it. But my concern is that it is one great big virtue signal. A virtue signal is when someone signals to others how virtuous and wonderful they are for showing this quote-unquote support for some cause of the moment. In this case, Ukraine. Mind you, very few of them will actually do anything other than wear that pin or change their social media photo to the Ukrainian flag. The reason that I wanted to sing their anthem is not to signal any virtue myself, but rather to actually understand what is in that anthem and the meaning therein to gain some historical perspective. The anthem talks about the glory and freedom of Ukraine not having perished. The lyrics come from 1862 by the poet Pavlo Chubinsky. In the early half of the 20th century, Ukraine was unsuccessfully trying to make itself independent from Russia. Following Ukraine's secession from the Soviet Union, this piece was adopted by Parliament as the official anthem for Ukraine in 1992. Some scholars think that the Polish song Poland is Not Yet Lost had influence on Chubinsky's lyrics. The song became the state anthem of the Ukrainian Republic in 1917, although not officially by any state government. Once the USSR came along in 1922, the anthem was immediately banned by the Soviet regime. Of all the Soviet republics, this particular one for Ukraine was the only anthem that was banned because they were scared of its nationalist sentiment. Soviet leaders instead wanted a song that made Ukraine and the USSR equal among equals, that expressly mentioned the Communist Party. So they chose a piece by Pavlo Tachina, which became the official anthem from 1949 until 1991. And it was highly unpopular in this communist period in Ukraine. In 1992, however, it was adopted by Ukraine's parliament, with Mikhailo Verbitsky's music set to Chubinsky's lyrics. The only folks to reject this anthem were the communist and socialist members of Ukrainian parliament. Shocker. Here's an interesting musical observation about the anthem. Because Verbitsky was a clerical church composer, the anthem has a certain clerical or church-like feel to it, probably influenced by Franz Schubert. The anthem has this carry the torch energy to it that can only be traced to a people hungering and longing for freedom from oppression. Remember that I mentioned that the Soviets got rid of the song so that they could opt for a more communist-friendly song. That's what communism does. It gets rid of anything spiritual, religious, or any sentiment that does not worship the specter of communism itself. The state is God in that case. I use all of this background about the Ukrainian national anthem because music many times is a kind of barometer of what is going on and where we are. We know that music is, of course, a form of expression, and in free societies and in free countries, free expression is allowed. Furthermore, think about our own Star-Spangled Banner. It came from oppression too. When Francis Scott Key was looking to see if the American flag was still there, raised as the British battled the revolutionaries, that's why he wrote the song. These songs come from great strife, and so the lyricist of the Ukrainian national anthem also wrote this piece with a similar sentiment. Think about the lyrics. Luck will smile on us. Our enemies will perish. Brothers, we will live happily in our land. We'll not spare our souls or bodies to get freedom. See, that is a sense of sacrifice. Ukraine is not dead yet. And I think we are seeing that in spite of Vladimir Putin. Ukraine is not dead yet. Ever since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we've been hearing the Ukrainian anthem being performed all across the world. And I want to make it clear that my performance of the anthem is firstly with empathy towards the Ukrainian people who are caught up in all of this out of no fault of their own, many of whom are in bomb shelters with innocent children trying to find exile, as the men must stay behind to fight. So of course, everyone can have empathy for those people who are caught up in this mess. And we can also have empathy for Russian people who may entirely disagree with Putin's actions, who are also caught up in this. And you're now seeing a very anti-Russian sentiment that is undeserved, especially for those Russians who may have come to the United States or elsewhere. Just like Ukrainians, they might have left their country to pursue the same type of freedom that we have. So, for one thing, I sing the anthem to support anyone who craves freedom, which is one of those inalienable rights that God gave us. For all practical purposes, it is the reason that they flee westward, all the way to America. No one should be holding Russian people, especially those who crave freedom, responsible for the actions of Vladimir Putin. However, the conflict is not as simple as one man's aggression. We know that Putin has viewed NATO expansion as aggression, and so he feels that he has to respond to that aggression. That is not quite as simple as, say, Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. This is far more complex, because as we know, China can be a major player in this conflict, especially if they supply Putin with any sort of military support. That could be a game changer. Now, we also know that China wants to do the same thing to Taiwan that Russia is doing to Ukraine. They've already been teasing it. Zelensky seems like a hero. I mean, he's a normal guy fighting for his country and for his people. Who wouldn't admire that? But is he some wonderful leader? Has Ukraine been the bastion of freedom for its people? The country has been notoriously corrupt. Look no further than then Vice President Joe Biden's interest in getting the previous Ukrainian leader Poroshenko to fire a certain prosecutor because of his son Hunter's business dealings with the oil and gas company Burisma. The Bidens have vested interest in Ukraine and have for quite some time. Is it any wonder that Biden is all gaga for Ukraine, especially when it has now been confirmed that Hunter's laptop got in the hands of the Russian mafia? So, to what extent are this administration's actions contingent upon business dealings with Ukraine and Hunter's missing laptop? The media do not want you knowing that, and did not want you knowing that in the 2020 election. The New York Post reported it, and no social media company or even typical mainstream media would report it. They suppressed this story.